Hi. Mars is about 33 million miles away from Earth right now, and it takes about 6 to 8 months to get there. That's each way, right? Really going to be a long journey. America's going there, probably in the late 2030s, but before we go into deep space to hit the red planet, we're returning humans to the moon. How are we going to do these things? We're going to do them on something called the Space Launch System. Now you can see this poster behind me, a little cut off, but let me give you a tighter shot. This is the Space Launch System that is currently being built in or just outside of New Orleans at NASA's Michoud Assembly Facility. It's the world's largest, most powerful rocket. There's never been anything like it. It's heavy lift. Someday it's going to take humans 40,000 miles beyond the moon before sending them off into really deep space to go to the red planet. Now, when I was at Stennis Space Center last month, I got a chance to see the test firing of the RS-25 engines that will power the SLS to the moon and into deep space. So we got some great video for you, and I thought I'd share it. Let's take a look. Welcome to NASA's A1 and A2 test stands. A1 is on the right, A2 in the distance on the left. The test that we're going to see today will be taking place on A1, this one right here. It's already active. We're a little less than 15 minutes away from the test fire.
You can see the water vapor that's coming out of, we refer to it as the bucket of the deflector. That water is ramping up. You know, they drop the water pressure down to about 150. They open up some bypass valves and then they let it pressurize the water, the deflector, on the backside. And the reason why they're doing that is to make sure that we don't do any damage to the facility. There's some bypass valves that are there, and then they wait for that back pressure, and then they start opening up the mains. Once they get those mains open, they'll bring the water pressure back up. So you'll see the water pressure, you'll see the water continuously rise all the way up until it's about 10 minutes till actually start. So you'll see that water flow increasing. When they get through, the final pressure that they'll be at is running at about 200 psi down at the base of the stand. Now inside of the engine itself, it's about 6,000 degrees, 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and they do the water cooling method. That's to cool that steel back down so that it's not going to do any damage to the facility. That's the test control center, the TCC. That's the TCC, and that's where most of the team sits. So the team is controlling. Both of them are sitting there.
We've got a good crowd out here today. We got media and a lot of stakeholders for the program. A lot of different companies, and of course NASA. Okay, it's going to take 4 RS-25 engines to power the launch of the Space Launch System, all right? Each engine generates 500,000 pounds of thrust, right? More than 2 million pounds of thrust on launch day. Today, just one engine being tested here, and this test will run for 510 seconds. That's right, a little over 8 minutes, and they're going to run it at about 113%. That's the most they've ever done. Pretty impressive. Yeah, you're not going to take in a launch without using some earplugs. That's right, these are NASA qualified certified earplugs. Got them in. And that, folks, is why they call it rocket science. Aloha. Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. This is the B-2 test stand that NASA runs, where they test the core stage of rockets. So this was used for the Apollo program. And they use that on the left side. Let me zoom in a little bit right there. And this is where the Space Launch System, once it's assembled, will be tested. So they'll put the entire rocket in there, minus the Orion capsule, of course, and they'll do the blast test here. Oh, welcome back. Hey, I'm looking at this map of Mars, trying to figure out where we would land when we finally get there. So I can see we've got some ice up here in the eastern hemisphere and in the western hemisphere. That's good news, right? Because that means we can probably produce fuel on the planet and not have to bring that with us. We can also use it to grow food and for drinking water. So those are really all essential things that we can do. The other critical thing is, how will Mars look when we start to colonize it? You know, engineers are working on that right now. Here's a rough idea of how it could look. So you need habitats to live in for communications. You need greenhouses to grow food in. I mean, a lot of cool stuff that can happen. You've got, you also need a launching pad for when you're going back to Earth, right? It's a tough atmosphere. The temperatures are extreme. And again, you are a long ways away from Earth. An interesting concept here is that we could potentially live in lava tubes underground, right? That's what this shaded area represents. And that would shield the astronauts from radiation, just keep them off the surface, make it a lot easier. Pretty exciting stuff. It's fun to be a part of all this, and we're going to have a lot more on the journey to Mars and the return to the moon in the coming months. And we've also got some special coverage of the International Space Station coming up too. Thanks for watching.